let me ask you something a little uncomfortable. Think about the last time you bought something you were genuinely excited about. Maybe it was a new pair of shoes, maybe it was the latest phone upgrade, maybe it was some kitchen gadget you stumbled across in an ad while you were just trying to watch a video about something completely unrelated. You felt this pull in your chest, this almost magnetic need. So you bought it. You checked out. You waited for the delivery notification, and then it arrived, and for a day or two, maybe even a week, you actually loved it. And then it just kind of sat there, on the shelf, in the closet, in the drawer you never open, and one afternoon you looked at it, really looked at it, and felt almost nothing. Not regret, not satisfaction, just nothing. Here's the thing. That feeling, that strange emptiness after the purchase, isn't a coincidence. It's not bad luck, and it's not a character flaw. It was engineered, deliberately, systematically, and with extraordinary precision by some of the smartest people on the planet, armed with billions of dollars in research budgets and decades of psychological data about how human beings work. Their entire job, the job they wake up and go to work and get paid very well to do, is to make sure you feel intensely excited before you buy and completely indifferent after, because that gap, the gap between the wanting and the having, is exactly where their profit lives. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on one of the most powerful, most underestimated, and most misunderstood forces shaping your financial life right now. It's not interest rates, it's not inflation, it's not some complicated investing mistake you made. It's your own brain, and specifically, one tiny chemical messenger inside it called dopamine.
Hey, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Zaki, and this is Zaki Invests. This is the channel where we break down the psychology of money, the habits of wealth, and the financial traps that keep smart, hardworking people stuck, all in a way that's actually easy to understand. No jargon, no complicated charts, just real insights that change the way you think about your money. We've covered everything from why good earners still end up broke, to the hidden psychology behind your 401k, to the mental tricks banks use to keep you spending. And today, we're going deep on something that affects every single one of us every single day, whether we realize it or not. So, if you're ready, let's get into it. That marketers have figured out how to weaponize against you with frightening efficiency. Now, most of us like to think we're pretty rational when it comes to spending money. We say things to ourselves like, I only buy things I actually need, or I always do my research before I spend on anything big, or the classic, I'm not one of those people who just impulse buys stuff. And here's the uncomfortable truth. We genuinely believe that. We're not consciously lying to ourselves. In the moment, it feels completely true. But if you were to sit down and actually look at where your money went over the past 12 months, really look, with a spreadsheet and receipts and no emotional editing, most people find something that surprises them. Americans spend on average over $18,000 a year on non-essential purchases. That includes subscription services they signed up for and forgot about, clothes that still have the tags on them, gadgets that promised to transform their productivity and collected dust within a month, and online orders placed at 11 p.m. that felt completely necessary in the moment. Research shows that somewhere between 40 and 60% of all retail purchases are unplanned, meaning the person had no intention of buying that thing when they woke up that morning, or even when they opened the app 5 minutes earlier. And this isn't a problem limited to people who are bad with money. It affects high earners. It affects people with MBAs. It affects personal finance YouTubers for that matter. Because this isn't really about financial literacy. It's about something much deeper, something that operates below the level of logic and reason in the ancient emotional reward-seeking machinery of the human brain. So what's actually happening? Why do our bank statements so often belong to someone we don't quite recognize?
The answer is that modern marketing, especially digital marketing in the social media era, doesn't try to sell to your logical brain at all. It doesn't try to argue that something is a good deal, or that you genuinely need it, or even that you'll use it regularly. It bypasses all of that. It goes straight to the gut. It sells directly to the most primitive, most emotional, most reward-hungry part of your brain, and it does it before your rational mind even has a chance to weigh in. And the weapon they use to do it, the one they've optimized their entire business model around, is dopamine. Most people have heard the word dopamine. It gets mentioned in articles about addiction, about social media, about video games. It's usually described as the brain's feel-good chemical. But that description is actually a little misleading, and the real truth about what dopamine actually does is far more useful and far more alarming once you understand it. Dopamine isn't really about pleasure. It's about anticipation. Let me give you a simple image to make this concrete. Imagine you're not a modern person with a phone and a bank account. Imagine you're a hunter, tens of thousands of years ago, out in the wilderness. You're tired, you're hungry, and then you spot something. Fresh animal tracks in the mud. The hunt is on. In that moment, your brain floods your body with energy, focus, sharpened attention, and excitement. You feel alive. That flood of neurochemical energy, that's dopamine. But notice something important. You haven't eaten yet. You haven't caught anything. Nothing good has happened yet. The dopamine is firing not because you got a reward, but because your brain detected a signal that a reward might be coming. That system is ancient. It evolved because it was incredibly useful. It's what made our ancestors get off the ground and go hunting instead of lying there waiting for food to appear. Dopamine doesn't reward you for having things. It motivates you to chase them. And now, fast forward to the present day. Modern marketers haven't invented a new psychological lever. They've simply figured out, with extraordinary precision, how to trigger that exact same ancient mechanism, how to make your brain feel like it just spotted tracks in the mud, and they can do it on demand, at scale, thousands of times a day, through a small glowing rectangle in your pocket. Let's walk through the exact playbook, because once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Step 1, the scroll. You're on your phone, maybe you're waiting for coffee, maybe you're in bed before sleep, maybe you're just killing 5 minutes between meetings. You're scrolling, not looking for anything in particular, just letting the feed wash over you. And every few posts, something catches your attention. A product, a beautifully shot video of someone using a minimalist leather wallet, a before and after of a skincare result, a short clip of someone unboxing something that looks genuinely satisfying. You weren't thinking about buying anything. You weren't even in a shopping mindset. But your brain just went, oh, that tiny flicker of interest, that's dopamine. A small hit, just enough to make you pause and look a half second longer. Step 2, the follow-up. Maybe you click on it. Maybe you don't. Either way, the algorithm noticed. And now begins what the industry calls retargeting. Over the next 24 to 72 hours, that product starts appearing everywhere. On Instagram, on YouTube, in your email, on the website you use to check the news. Sometimes even in different formats. A testimonial here, a lifestyle image there, a countdown timer somewhere else. Every time you see it, something happens in your brain that you probably don't consciously notice. That file gets reopened. That tiny signal fires again. Potential reward still pending. And each exposure reinforces the association between that brand and the feeling of anticipation. They're not just reminding you the product exists, they're conditioning your nervous system to associate that brand with dopamine, with excitement, with the feeling that something good might be coming. This is one of the most sophisticated psychological operations in human history, deployed on hundreds of millions of people simultaneously every single day. Step 3, the manufactured urgency. Then comes the strike, and they're very good at timing it. Maybe you've had a long, draining day. Maybe you're feeling a little down about something at work or stressed about something at home. Your emotional defenses are lower than usual. Your prefrontal cortex, the logical, decision-making part of your brain, is tired. And then the notification arrives. Flash sale, 30% off for the next 4 hours only. Now your brain isn't processing this as a marketing tactic. It's processing it as the reward window is closing. and this activates something called loss aversion, one of the most reliably documented findings in all of behavioral economics. The human brain, on average, feels the pain of losing something approximately twice as intensely as it feels the pleasure of gaining something of equivalent value. So now you're not just being pulled toward buying, you're simultaneously being pushed by the fear of losing the opportunity. That's a pincer movement from both sides. And against that combination, dopamine-fueled desire plus loss aversion anxiety, your logical brain rarely wins. You buy it, and there's a real spike. The package arrives, you open it, there's genuine excitement. And then, over a few days, it fades. Because dopamine doesn't reward having, it only fires for chasing. And now that the chase is over, the chemical has no reason to show up. The marketers knew this would happen. They planned for it, because now you're back at baseline, slightly empty, slightly bored, and the whole machine is ready to start the cycle again. Real quick, if you're finding this useful, do me a favor and hit that like button right now. It genuinely helps this video reach more people who need to hear this. And if you're not subscribed yet, now's a great time, because what we're about to get into next is honestly the part that changes how you see your own spending forever. Okay, back to it. Here's where this gets genuinely important for your financial life, and I want you to really sit with this for a second. It's not just that you spent $80 or $90 on something you don't really use. The bigger problem is what happens over years and years of this cycle. Your brain slowly, quietly gets trained to associate shopping with emotional relief, with comfort, with the feeling that something good is coming in a world that often feels uncertain and stressful.
Behavioral economists have studied this extensively. There's a reason we call it retail therapy. And even though we say it with a laugh, the psychological mechanism underneath it is completely real. People are measurably more likely to make unplanned purchases when they're stressed, anxious, bored, lonely, or emotionally depleted. Not because buying things actually fixes those feelings. It doesn't, not in any lasting way, but because the anticipation of a purchase generates a temporary dopamine spike that mimics relief, that feels, in the moment, like things are a little bit better. Now translate that into dollars. Let's say this pattern costs you a modest $250 a month. Impulse buys, things you saw advertised and talked yourself into, subscriptions you don't remember signing up for. That's $3,000 a year. Over 10 years, if you had invested that money instead and earned a fairly conservative 8% annual return, you'd be looking at somewhere around $47,000. Over 20 years, close to $150,000. That's not a vacation fund. That's a down payment on a house. That's a college education. That's a meaningful chunk of someone's retirement. And the companies that sold you those things, they invested enormous resources to create the experience that parted you from that money. They paid for the ads, the retargeting infrastructure, the algorithm optimization, the psychologists and behavioral scientists consulting on the user experience. You funded all of that, and then the cycle reset, and you funded it again. Here is the most important insight of everything we've talked about today, and it's one that most people go their entire lives without consciously realizing.
The anticipation is always, reliably, structurally better than the reality. This isn't about bad products. This is about the basic architecture of your nervous system. Researchers have consistently found that people report higher emotional intensity before receiving a desired object than after. The expectation is richer and more vivid than the experience itself. The chase feels better than the catch, because dopamine exists to motivate the chase, not to celebrate the catch. Marketing has been designed deliberately around this truth. They sell you the anticipation. They craft an experience so full of dopamine triggers, beautiful imagery, social proof, scarcity signals, countdown timers, that the wanting becomes almost overwhelming. And they know perfectly well that once you have the thing, you'll feel less than you expected. They're counting on that because it means they can sell you the next thing. So, what do you actually do with this? Because understanding a trap is different from escaping it, especially when the trap is wired directly into your neurology. The good news is that awareness genuinely helps. Not completely, not overnight, but measurably and meaningfully. Here are 3 concrete shifts that make a real difference. The first is the 72-hour rule. When you feel the urge to buy something that wasn't on your radar this morning, don't fight it directly. Just delay it. Close the tab, put the item in a cart, and leave it there. Set a reminder to come back in 72 hours. The reason this works is chemical. The dopamine spike that made the purchase feel urgent has a half-life. It fades. In that 72-hour window, your rational brain gets to catch up. And more often than not, when you come back, the urgency is completely gone. You look at the item and wonder what all the fuss was about. The second is emotional audit. Next time you feel the pull to buy something, stop and do a 10-second check-in. Ask yourself, what am I actually feeling right now? Bored? Stressed? Anxious after a hard day? Because if the honest answer is an emotion rather than a genuine need, you're not shopping, you're self-medicating. And once you name that, you have options. Go for a walk, call someone, make something with your hands. These aren't as immediately satisfying as the dopamine spike from buying, but they're free, and they actually address the underlying feeling instead of papering over it temporarily. The third is to weaponize dopamine for yourself. This one is the most powerful over the long run because it works with your brain chemistry instead of fighting it. Remember, your brain doesn't care what it's anticipating. It just needs to believe a reward is coming. So give it something to anticipate that builds your life instead of draining it. Track your net worth on a simple spreadsheet. Once a month, watch the number move. Set a savings goal with a visual progress bar. Research an investment you're genuinely curious about. Create a future self fund and name it something specific. These activities generate real dopamine. The wanting to see the number go up feeling is the same chemical as the wanting to buy the thing feeling. You're just redirecting the river. We live in what people now call the attention economy. The most valuable commodity in the modern world isn't oil, it isn't data, it isn't even money in the traditional sense. It's your focused attention. And the largest, most profitable companies on earth have built their entire business models around capturing it, holding it, and converting it into purchases. The scary thing about dopamine-based marketing is that it doesn't feel like manipulation from the inside. It feels like desire. It feels like you wanting something. It feels spontaneous and personal, even though it was triggered by a carefully calibrated algorithmic decision. And most people, genuinely, honestly, without any judgment, go their entire adult lives without ever questioning whether the things they want are things they freely chose to want or things they were methodically, expensively, psychologically guided toward wanting. The person who understands this, who can feel the pull of a well-timed ad and recognize the mechanism underneath it, has an edge that most people never develop, not just over marketers, over their own automatic impulses. Because you can't step outside a system you can't see, but once you can see it, even the grip loosens a little. Your bank account over time is essentially a record of your choices, and your choices are only as free as your level of awareness. So the next time you feel that rush, that sudden inexplicable need for something you didn't know existed 20 minutes ago, take one breath before you tap the button. Ask yourself a single question. Who designed this feeling and who benefits from it? If the answer is mostly the company selling it to you, then you've just done something genuinely powerful. You didn't just save money, you saw the machine clearly, and for one moment, you chose not to be run by it. That kind of awareness, you can't buy it anywhere, but it might be the most valuable thing you ever build. If this video shifted something for you, even just a little, that's exactly why this channel exists. At Zaki Invests, we don't just talk about budgeting tips or which stocks to pick. We go deeper than that. We look at why you make the financial decisions you make, the psychology underneath, the patterns you didn't choose but can absolutely change. Because the truth is, managing money well is only 20% math. It's 80% behavior, and behavior starts in the mind. So if you want to keep building that awareness and turn it into actual financial results, subscribe to Zaki Invests. Hit the bell so you don't miss a video. And if this one made you think, drop a comment below and tell me, what's the last thing you bought that you regret? I read every single one. New videos every week. I'll see you in the next one.